So recently I watched the new Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man Far From Home, and it got me really excited for the future. And it also made me crave some more Spider-Man, so I rewatched the Sam Raimi trilogy. But even after that, I wanted more. So I thought, maybe it would be a good time to start reading some comics. Don't get me wrong, I have before dabbled in some comics here and there, different like issues and stuff, but I've never read a full series. And by the way, the one that I just showed, Spider-Geddon, is the one that features the character from the games, from the PS4 games, so that's why I started reading those. But it didn't really capture my attention. But after, as I said, watching those movies, I just wanted to get into it. And I thought, why not start where it all started? So how are they? Do they hold up? Are they still good? If that's just the thing you want to know and move on from the video, I think they're still pretty good. I found them very entertaining. I think it's still worth reading them. Especially seeing the differences was very, very cool, from the movies. The drawings are very simple but effective in storytelling. You get exactly what's going on in the drawings. You really know what's happening. But it is very simple. Sometimes the background is just one color. But I do like it. It has a style. It looks iconic. I don't know how to describe it. It's just, I love it. But there are some mistakes in it. For example, sometimes the webbing on Spider-Man's costume isn't there. Sometimes the spider is not there. A little inconsistencies here and there. But it's nothing too big of an issue while reading in it. It didn't make my reading experience worse. It's just something I've noticed. How's the story? I love the story. It's really, oh my god, I feel like the last few days, I felt like a kid again. It was so cool. I wanted to read more and more and more. I think by now I've read 13 or 14 issues or something like that, which is around 300 pages, give or take. And yeah, I'm still wanting to read more. If I wouldn't be doing this video, I would probably be reading more. So yeah, a few things that I've noticed is they actually show pretty soon why Jameson hates Spider-Man so much. And it's because he can't believe that someone would do the things he does for nothing back. And he's jealous of him, so he slanders his name so much because he's jealous of him. So I thought that was pretty cool that they showed this. I thought that would come much later. But yeah, you learn a lot from the characters while reading the comics. And Flash, I have to say, the new Homecoming movies are actually kind of accurate with Flash. Yeah, it doesn't look like Flash, and he probably also doesn't sound how Flash would sound if you have that image of Flash in your head. But his relationship with Peter is almost exactly like in the comics. The bullying that you see wasn't very physical like in other movies or in other series. It's more banter between them. He says puny Parker, this and that. He says, "Oh, you're so scared," and he never actually beats him. They do fight once in a boxing match, which was pretty cool because the teacher noticed that they were always having discussions with each other and they kind of hated each other, and the teacher of course noticed that and they said, you know what, just fight it out in the gym, and they did, and that was a pretty cool scene. Also cool seeing all the iconic villains, you see the Vulture, Electro, the Lizard, Dr. Octopus, and especially what's also very interesting seeing their first appearances. It's really cool to have so many iconic characters appear on the start from Spider-Man. And by the way, if you didn't know this, Spider-Man doesn't start with his own comic. He's featured in another series that's called Amazing Fantasy, which was at its end. So that's why they put him in there, because the people around Stanley didn't really believe in Spider-Man, just I think him and Steve Ditko most of all. That's why they put him in the last issue of an ongoing comic, because it didn't matter if it flopped or not, because it was the last one anyway. But as we all know, it kind of became one of the biggest characters ever. So yeah. He got his own issues, which actually the first one already features the Fantastic Four, which kind of surprised me. And they're very different than depicted in all the movies. I would actually be pretty glad if they got their own like proper movie. I think it would be very entertaining because Spider-Man goes a lot to them. They're so different as depicted in the movie. They're more in the rounds of the Guardians of the Galaxy, that they're kind of a oddball group, but they still have their own identity, you know. They're not like the Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, they existed before the Guardians of the Galaxy, the Fantastic Four. So I think it would be cool if we saw like a proper movie of them. I think James Gunn would probably do a good job. He really does well in those group up movies. Also, something that was interesting is that Spider-Man sometimes is kind of a dick, a little bit at least. Like the first time he shows up to the Fantastic Four, he like breaks in, and sometimes he messes with them just for fun. So that was kind of funny to see. I also noticed, for example, Electro actually isn't like able to shoot his lightning like that. He actually has like a wire contraption where he's able to make a current out of it if he has like wires and stuff. But on his own, I don't think he can like shoot stuff. Maybe if he touches them. And also what I see, which was different in some movies, is that the spider that bites Spider-Man is radioactive. Like I think he goes to a museum or something where they show stuff about radioactivity, and there's this huge machine, and the spider goes down and gets caught in that machine and turns radioactive. And the spider itself is normal, but the machine turns it to a radioactive spider, and it dies shortly after it bites Peter. And a lot of villains thought like that they're radioactive. For example, also a Dr. Octopus, because he like stepped into a machine and then he fused with the tentacles because of the radioactivity. So a lot of villains because of radioactivity that they became the way who they are. So a lot of radioactive stuff in this. Also, something that surprised me is that the first like love that Peter has isn't actually MJ. It's Betty Brant from the Daily Bugle, which I didn't see coming, but I guess it makes sense now why they kind of had this flirting thing in the Sam Raimi movies, because in the comics they actually dated. So that makes sense now, those scenes where they kind of flirted. That's probably why Sam Raimi put it in. It's kind of a reference to the comics. Yeah, after reading the comics, like I wanted to keep going. Like it really captured my interest a lot. After like page after page after page, I wanted to continue, read more and more and get my background story. It's really exhilarating reading it. It's so interesting. You want to read more and more and more. I think it still holds up a lot. I think it's probably better than some of the comics they produce today. It really stood the test of time, especially the first like issue of the Amazing Fantasy. Just captures the Peter Parker story, Spider-Man story so well in such a short amount of time. I think it's like only 15 pages or something like that, and it manages to tell his story so efficiently while still being interesting, which is really impressive. And they probably had to do that because people didn't believe in the character, so Stanley just gave it his all and he hit it out of the park. But yeah, I'm excited to see what the future holds. I'm definitely gonna continue reading them, and I'm probably gonna make more videos out of it. So if you have questions, just post it in the comments. Yeah, I'm open for your thoughts on what you would like to see, and if you have like questions about the comics and you don't want to read them yourself, I might do a video about it if you post it like down in the comments. But yeah, that was it for the video. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next one.
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Spins a web and his eyes, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man.